Okay, let's dive right into this explainer by confronting a massive corporate misconception right out of the gate. For decades, we've kind of been fed this idea that leadership is basically a finish line. We're conditioned to think of it as the corner office, the impressive title on a business card, or some larger-than-life public image that's been carefully curated for everyone to see. But the source material we're unpacking today fundamentally shatters that illusion. It argues that leadership isn't a prize you win. It's actually a heavy, disciplined practice. If you're here to learn how to genuinely build something weighty and demanding, whether that's a thriving business, a grassroots movement, or honestly just a really effective local team, we have to completely rewire how we think about what it actually means to lead. So, I want you to ask yourself this question right now. Seriously, think about your own workplace. When someone gets a promotion or a shiny new rank, do you automatically view them as a leader? Does that title alone earn your unwavering loyalty? Well, the research strongly argues no. Being given a role by someone already in authority might make you a manager, but it absolutely does not secure deep loyalty from your team. We see this play out every single day in organizations across the globe, right? People are handed authority on a silver platter, but they completely fail to earn genuine followership from the people actually doing the daily work.
And this brilliantly illustrates that massive divide between the shallow fantasy of leadership and the gritty reality. On one side, we have the myth. This reduces leadership to mere domination, or worse, just a popularity contest. It's that trap of believing that if you're charismatic enough, or if you just have enough formal authority, people are going to naturally follow you. But then, look at the reality. True leadership is the moral and practical work of influencing people in ways that are constructive and grounded in reality. It's about building trust, setting clear direction, and maintaining the discipline to actually move people toward a meaningful destination. You can be highly visible, you can hold all the formal authority in the world, and you can still lead incredibly poorly if you're missing the elements of reality.
Let's move to Section 1, the core foundation. Break down this practical definition with me for a second. Notice what is entirely missing here. There's literally no mention of power, coercion, or being the loudest voice in the room. Instead, it highlights things like example, relationship, and continued learning. Think back to a time you were maybe afraid to speak up in a meeting or point out a flaw in a project. That right there is a fundamental failure of leadership. The source emphasizes recent research showing that elements like trust, openness, and psychological safety aren't just soft, nice-to-have extras for a modern office. No, they are absolutely central, non-negotiable conditions. Because without creating that psychological safety, people simply won't speak up, they won't learn, and they certainly aren't going to perform well for you.
So, the crucial point we need to take away is that true leadership requires an absolute dual foundation, character and competence. You simply cannot survive on just one. Now, competence obviously matters because, well, leaders have to actually get things done. You got to make sound decisions, manage resources, and guide people through real-world uncertainty. But character matters equally, if not more. Because without integrity, humility, and self-command, even the most impressive technical skill eventually becomes a massive liability. A highly competent person completely lacking character is literally a disaster waiting to happen in any organization.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 3 gateways.
Now, what's super interesting here is how this categorizes the realities of your actual workplace into 3 distinct pathways. First up, you have appointed leadership. This is your formally promoted boss. But remember, they still have to earn trust by achieving results and genuinely connecting with people. Second is implied leadership. These leaders are rarely formally announced, which kind of makes them fascinating. This is that indispensable person everyone quietly relies on in a crisis because they've repeatedly shown calm thinking and reliability. And third, emergent leadership. This happens organically when someone just steps forward, notices what needs to be done, and mobilizes action way before any formal bureaucracy even catches up. Modern, fast-paced organizations absolutely depend on this emergent type of leader to survive.
Let's actually pause on this for a second because it is so vital. Even if you pass through that first gateway, the appointed gateway, you have to internalize this. The org chart does not make you a leader. If you just rely on your appointment, sure, followers might comply outwardly because they have to keep their paycheck, but they are going to withhold their actual inward trust. People only commit fully when the person above them proves to be credible, productive, and actually paying attention to the realities the team is facing on the ground.
All right, Section 3, the 4 demands.
Before we list out the daily demands, I want to hit you with this incredibly powerful insight from the text. Vision without execution becomes theater. Wow. It is just so easy to stand on a stage or at the head of a boardroom and talk a big game about a grand future.
But if you cannot execute on that vision, you're really just putting on a play for an audience. In the same vein, relationship without results is just sentimentality. At the end of the day, to earn the right to lead, you must actually produce tangible progress.
So let's walk through these 4 recurring foundational demands. First, you must build trust. Why? Because fear-driven silence quickly becomes a massive operational risk. If your team is terrified of you, they're going to hide their mistakes until it's way too late to fix them. Second, you've got to combine humility with conviction. Be open to correction and care a whole lot more about the truth than protecting your own ego. Third, like we just talked about, you must produce. Effective leadership means moving the needle. And finally, number 4, you have to think strategically.
And that strategic thinking translates directly into this repeatable 5-part discipline. It's elegantly simple, but honestly, it's profound when you apply it consistently. You start by clarifying exactly where you are right now, warts and all. Then, identify the destination. Next comes the hard, unglamorous part, learning what is actually required to get there. Then, you step out and make the journey. And crucially, step 5, keep reassessing along the way. This whole sequence is so powerful because it perfectly marries a grand vision with constant grounding feedback.
Moving right along to Section 4, the ongoing responsibilities.
So once you've established those demands, how do you maintain a healthy environment? Well, you have to set the moral and operational tone every single day, especially around truth-telling. You must create a culture where bad news isn't delayed. The text warns us that delayed candor is highly costly. You want those hard truths surfacing immediately so you can deal with them. You also need to reward repeatable good judgment and a disciplined process rather than relying on these brittle, ego-driven heroics to save the day at the 11th hour. And lastly, you have to develop additional leaders, not just compliant helpers, so the work can actually expand beyond your own limits.
And this perfectly illustrates a really subtle but absolutely critical distinction you have to manage every day: the difference between conviction and stubbornness. Conviction means you hold your direction firmly for sure, but you are completely willing to revise it when new evidence demands it. Stubbornness, on the other hand, is just digging your heels in for your ego. It's being entirely closed to correction. A true leader holds their ground for the mission, not for their own vanity.
Finally, Section 5, Stewardship over Vanity.
Let's leave off with this final provocative thought directly from the source material. If you treat leadership as a vehicle for your own personal glory, your group is eventually going to mirror your vanity. It'll become shallow, political, and fragile. But if you treat leadership as a stewardship, as a disciplined practice and a continual opportunity to grow your character, your work has a far better chance of becoming durable and truly worthy of the trust people place in you. So, take a hard look at your team right now. What reflection are you actually seeing? Thanks so much for joining me today for this explainer, and I hope it helps you build something genuinely worthy of trust.